Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so excited about today's episode because we have an incredible guest and fellow entrepreneur who is doing deeply impactful work to make the world a better place. And I'll tell you this personally as well, as the founder of a nonprofit, how important this problem is that he is solving, and he has solved it in such a brilliant way. This is a real innovator in so many different ways. Let me introduce you to him. His name is Crick. Ray is the CEO and co-founder of Allegory, which is also known as, I love in so many circles, called the Airbnb for grant funding. It's an AI native platform bringing together innovators and funders to move impact investing at the speed of innovation, which is only getting faster every single day. After years of working in product management in the tech industry from Portland to New York, San Francisco to Austin to London, Ray then moved to build digital systems at an international NGO in and around Ukraine. After seeing firsthand how slow, manual, and wasteful the grant and reporting process is across governments, large NGOs, and impact funders, he founded Allegory to build the financial and AI infrastructure that lets capital move faster to the people and projects creating real impact. And I'll tell you what, one of those people creating impact is Ray himself, so I'm excited about this one. Let's dive straight into my interview with Crick. All right, Ray, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Brian. Appreciate it.
Heck yes, so excited to dive deep into all the amazing things that you are doing. But before we geek out about your business, we've got to start with you personally. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Ray? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Oh, man. Let's see. Hashtag dad of four, world traveler, and mediocre guitar player.
Right. I love that overview. The succinctness of it. I know that every single one of those branches probably has a deep web that we can navigate. You're doing all that while obviously just leading innovation at a really cool scale. Introduce people to Allegory, because I love that tagline or the viewpoint of the Airbnb for grant funding for us to really understand it. But you have personal understanding into why this matters, how painful existing solutions or lack of solutions are. So introduce listeners to it.
Yeah, for sure. So at Allegory, our whole mission is really to accelerate capital for the world changers and really focused on human-centered innovation. And one of the things that I found that was a problem during my experience, I've worked in product digital for a long time, but when I worked at a humanitarian organization, all of our funding was through grants, through capital. But the process to actually get that capital to the people who really needed it seemed like it took a lot longer than was necessary. There's a lot of application processes, right? There's a lot of due diligence on the back end. How did you spend that money? A lot of sheets and forms and projects. And I just kind of thought there's got to be a better way. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do, and why we think of ourselves as kind of this Airbnb, which is really connecting the people who need the capital with the people that have it, and then providing transparency in how that capital is being spent instead of it being in spreadsheets. With technology and workflows that we have today, we can really accelerate how that capital gets into the hands of world changers.
Yeah, and Ray, I find that on the macro level and probably in the mainstream conversation, people probably take for granted and assume that, all these NGOs, all these nonprofits, all these impact-driven organizations must be easy for them to get their hands on money because, of course, money is abundant. There's a lot of money in the world in general. I think until I started working in the nonprofit space in particular, I didn't realize all the things that people have to jump through, even just finding grants, Ray, I think is incredibly difficult. And that's why I love the Airbnb analogy, because if you and I want to go on a vacation in Savannah, how are we supposed to find a cute bungalow for us to stay in? And so, of course, Airbnb makes that possible. Talk to us about that step-by-step process, because even finding it is part of it. Collaborating in order to understand it is one thing. I know that you guys also focus on the actual creation of those grant proposals. Walk us through that for people who have never navigated it.
Yeah, for sure. So when we think about grants, like the first thing is kind of like this scouting, and that's actually the name of our AI agent and our infrastructure and our platform is Scout. So what we can do is once we learn a little bit more about who you are and what your organization has done, then we can actually match you through our deep research agent that uses our database of previous funders as well as scour new opportunities that might be a match. And so then our agent can actually connect you and match you to the right opportunity, help you understand, there's 40 to 60 pages on average that you have to go through and decipher. But with AI, that makes it a lot easier to figure out what is truly required. And does this actually make sense for me even to move forward in applying to? With 10% success rate, a lot of time is wasted on that review process, and we can help speed that up to help you spend time on what really matters, which is your mission.
Being on that side of the world, I've seen how frequently people build solutions for, hey, if you want to find grants, we can help you do that. If you want to apply for grants, we can help you do that. What I find so fascinating about what you've built with Allegory is the fact that you're also bringing funders to the table, is you're recognizing their obstacles as well. How is this money being sent? How is it being used? How do we track all of this? Talk to us about that, because I think you're a rare innovator in that space that's bringing both sides to the table.
Yeah, one of the things that's having experienced it is there's a lot of capital that doesn't get used, or it's difficult to find the right organization. And so what we want to do is not only match you as a seeker to find the right grant, but as also a funder. There are a ton of organizations out there that are putting in the good work. And if they're not in your network, you might not even know about them. And so what we're trying to do is expose them to you so you can actually fund the people that are aligned with your mission. Not only that, we provide the tools and services to help you create grants, rank and review, score them. And then on the final stage, which is this post-award settlement process, by using our payment platform, you can see directly how that capital is being spent. Is it in compliance? So that reduces your overhead and your reporting that you have to your donors and your LPs.
All right, Ray, hearing you talk about that and the way that you think it through, it's not just marketplace, it's also platform, it's also infrastructure. That's a big problem to solve that, of course, everyone in the space is already aware of. Talk to us about biting that big of a chunk off the apple, because you have firsthand experience from your professional career leading up to what it is that you're building today with your team. Talk to us about that thought process of there's a lot of different ways and smaller ways that you probably could solve the problem or be part of the solution. What's that grand vision and why now?
Great question. I think, with the adoption of AI being so prominent, as well as just how the funding landscape has shifted in the last year, right? It's changed dramatically. And not only that, but like impact funding is in a new place. I think people are looking for solutions that help move capital faster to the people that need it. And AI is a new technology that allows us to do just that. Additionally, the legacy ways of working, they work, but they're built on the last century. And we're here in 2026, which is crazy to think with the new Chinese New Year. And we can do a lot more, and we can do a lot better, not only for how capital moves, but how we take care of each other both now and for the future. And that's really what we're trying to do. It's an audacious goal that we have, but it's something that I'm extremely excited about.
Ray, and truth be told, being on this side of the conversation with you, it's a real pleasure, because what I also hear is not just your strategic mind, but really what I feel like you're already revealing at this part of the conversation is your attitude towards making it better for everyone. And it's something that I frequently reminded my nonprofit clients of, is that, well, all of these funders, they also want the same things you want. It's just they need to figure out the mechanisms through which it's possible for everybody to have the optimal outcomes. It sounds to me like you really have that positive mindset that is really the rising tide that lifts all boats. Does everybody share that mindset and that willingness to accept innovation? Because you've even called out that it's been done a certain way for a very long time. AI is disruptive technology that's accelerating a lot of change in many industries. What is that feeling right now in the space?
I think it's a little of both, right? I think it's just like any new technology, you're going to have your early adopters that are extremely excited and they want to test it, try it, play with it. And then you're going to have people that are wanting to wait to see how it all really shakes out. And so I think if you're, the interesting thing, I guess, about the space that we're working in, which is non-dilutive capital, we've got a mixture of that, right? So a lot of people think it's just nonprofits. There's actually, startups, deep tech, dual use. I mean, there's a ton of capital that's available for all sorts of different businesses. And so I think what we've seen is that depending on kind of where you land, obviously startups and accelerators are a lot more willing to try new things. But additionally, there are those that are in the NGO space right now that are looking for new funding opportunities. And so they're willing to kick the tires on something new to see if it can help them find an opportunity and that they never knew about. So I think that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, really well said. And I'm going to use you as a powerful voice in this arena because there's a lot of naysayers about AI and they feel like it's losing a lot and it's replacing jobs and all of this mass hysteria that the mainstream conversation sometimes goes on. Fortunately, there's a lot of great innovators and entrepreneurs out there, such as yourself, that are pushing the envelope in such positive ways. What is your retort for people who are fearful of the future with AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a place that's a little unknown, right? But throughout humanity's history, we've made choices on how we want to approach things. And I think we have a choice on a new tool that we have that we didn't have, and we can use it for good or we can use it not for good. And I believe in humanity, and I believe that we will make the choice that will allow us to use it for good and making it so that we can help people change the world, whether you're a PhD coming up with a brand new technology to cure cancer. We should accelerate that. If you're a humanitarian helping people in some of the worst situations in the world, we should figure out a way on how to help you do that. And so I think that's what we're trying to do. And I believe that AI is a tool. There's a lot of unknowns, I think, that a lot of people in the industry don't know. But I think our stance is, we want to see it used for good. And we're not trying to replace people. We're trying to help them do what they went to school for, which is invest in their mission and what they've been trying to do their whole careers and spend more time doing that rather than filling out paperwork. And really, that's kind of what we have today is a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, it's so true. And I really appreciate the way that you articulate that, especially because a lot of people might be listening to this and looking for those change leaders or those agents of change. I've always loved that term in any industry. There's always those agents of change. In your industry, again, bringing it back to both sides of the table, you've got the people who are seeking out capital, seeking out resources. Then you've got the funders who have those and want to use that to empower good things in this world. What's your take on who's pushing the envelope in that realm? Because fortunately, there's also intermediaries such as yourself that's bridging that gap for them. But I would imagine both sides in their own ways probably want these advancements. How are both sides feeling about it?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can speak for everyone that's looking for grants and everyone that's trying to fund, people with grants, but I can definitely say there's a change that's afoot, right? I mean, just whether it's been USAID funding cuts, I mean, that has been pretty terrible for a lot of folks, and it's been really, I think, unfortunate in basically every way possible. But I think what that does is it leads people to think about new ways of doing things and better ways of doing things. So whether you see that, in the UN or in the US, people are, I think, holding on to this idea that there has to be a better way and there can be a better way. And I also think for the people that are doing the work, right, that are seeking this capital, they want to spend time doing their work and doing the mission. And so I think there's absolutely a huge opportunity for AI to step in and help people find the right grant, improve their workflows, and automate the reporting so that they don't have to really deviate their time and energy from their passion, whatever that might be. So I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but what I'm trying to say is I think the timing is right. I think the demand for kind of non-dilutive capital is there. And I also think that there's a shift in how funders want to see this impact reported in real-time data too.
Yeah, one thing I can fully appreciate, Ray, you cannot speak for everyone. That is absolutely true. But I love the fact and really respect the fact that you guys aren't just building this theoretically, you're building it alongside your pilot users, and you guys already have some really cool traction and some really cool case studies along the way. Talk to us about that building in tandem, because Ray, I want to celebrate it. I'm going to beat this drum countless times today, because I think too many people work on their idea in that silo of, oh, people are going to love this. This is going to be really great. It's going to be industry changing technology. You are also leveraging it in tandem with your users to hear their real life feedback. So you're at least able to speak as to the insights that you get from them. What has that looked like? Because it's clearly that's a very intentional and strategic decision. And I would imagine that it's helping you all to make an even better product.
I mean, I hope so. But I mean, there's a couple of things there, right? So, I mean, we use it ourselves. I use it ourselves. So when I'm trying to run my business, I'm looking at non-dilutive capital that can help accelerate our mission. And so I go through and I test it out and, eat our own dog food, I guess is maybe the term. But yeah, I think like when you're looking at building from a human-centered perspective, you want to make sure that you're not just building a solution that you think that works. And with our pilot customers, I mean, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been easy all the time. I mean, we've tested it together in person and, on calls, and things haven't worked as expected. And, we've learned from that, though, I think immensely, not only in, yes, I've experienced the industry, but, living it day to day and working with people that are doing it over and over again is really the only way that you're going to be able to see how to actually build something. And so, yeah, it's been amazing to partner with the customers that we do have, and to see them, go from, man, I this isn't what I expected, or man, this doesn't work, to, oh wow, I'm able to find something that I didn't know existed. Oh wow, that's really cool. I think there's been a really, really nice, interesting journey that we've gone on with our customers, and looking forward to continue that.
Heck yeah, I love that approach to building. And I feel like it is a growing wave of people. Historically, if we look back 10 years even, which isn't that long ago, a lot of people spent a lot of time and money to put together an MVP that maybe would never even see the light of day and never even get their first customer. And I love the fact that AI is, of course, part of what's helping us to accelerate the real life development and deployment of tools that change the world, which I'm actually going to pick on that theme of eating your own dog food. Is I would imagine, as an AI-centric company, AI is also helping you infinitely behind the scenes. I would imagine that you all are using AI in some cool ways. Talk to us about that side of it, because I am, Ray, truth be told, I'm so jealous of everyone building companies in the AI era, because I started my first business in 2008. It was not so easy. I used to go to Barnes & Noble and buy books and read those for dummies books about any topic. Yeah. Talk to us about using AI behind the scenes to bring all this to life so much quicker.
Oh man, I think like one use case that I can think about that's helped us is, I think there's a lot of different companies out there that help you build decks now, and those are really great. And there's Gamma and Decky is one out of Portland. Shout out. But I think like for me, one thing I wanted to do is have a standard way that I could put my thoughts down, and then I can create something that I can share with somebody. So I ended up using AI to help me build out like a partnership deck when I was building out partnerships for our platform. And what that allowed me to do is kind of have a consolidated way in that I could have a brand, I can have a clear message, but additionally I can tweak that, right? And so I think being able to do that in 15 minutes or less versus me spending 30 minutes to an hour making it pixel perfect and moving images and assets and text around. Instead, I was able to just create a template, push it over into my cursor instance, and then generate actual React web app that I could use with some pretty lightweight authentication and send that over to people was pretty cool, and really kind of surprised me even. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that we're doing behind the scenes, but I think that's one example. Really of many that we've really done to accelerate kind of how we've gotten this far so fast.
Yeah, if someone 5 years ago just heard that answer that you just shared with us, that's unbelievable that an end user can do that. So huge kudos to you. I love that use case. Thanks for sharing something so real from your world. I'm also sure that a lot of listeners' ears will be perked up about the partnership strategy. Clearly, that's something that you fully embrace in your development, deployment, in the growth of Allegory. So many cool things there. Talk to us about that approach, because again, this is something that I hope just becomes widespread. Again, coming back to the rising tide lifting all boats. I'd love for you to take us into your views into the partnership program, and whether it's specific to you guys or just in general. Clearly, it's that abundance mindset that you have. I'd love to hear some of those thoughts.
Sure. I think, when you're looking at, I think, building a business or a company, there's a couple of ways you can invest in. Just kind of, we're trying to do both, but, partnerships are a very good way to help you get to where you want to go faster. And so whether that's through a partnership referral program where we have, our early access customers and we give them the ability to, use a referral link to help share, if they would like to, of course, what we're doing, that's one type of partnership that you can have. Additionally, there's technical partnerships that we can, and we have leveraged so that people can, find the right opportunity faster within our platform. We haven't announced it yet, so I'm being a little bit coy here, but it's really helped us build out our funder profile much faster than we could have done on our own. So that's amazing. Additionally, when you look at business partnerships and collaborating with people that are in the industry, we're fortunate enough to have partnered with grant writers that are actually have done this in the past and have secured hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we're partnering with them to make sure that what we're doing isn't just some idea that we have, but it's actually based on industry expertise. And so what we want to do is provide that industry expertise to everyone. And so that's how we're leveraging partners today to help us accelerate where we are and then really where we're going to be going.
Yeah, I love that. And Ray, I feel like that it's something that's been underlying in all of our conversation today, is how much of a big thinker you are in this realm. And you use the word accelerator, so I'm going to go there with you. I know that there's a lot of exciting things happening behind the scenes that we can't talk about on the air, but you guys are in the inaugural Oregon AI Accelerator program, which so much cool innovation happening. There's some big players behind the scenes there, Google, Cloudflare, involved in a lot of that stuff. Talk to us about the accelerator participation, because for a lot of people, one, they probably have never experienced it, and two, they probably don't fully understand just how much that can truly accelerate your growth.
Yeah. We've been fortunate enough to get in. As a kid that grew up in PDX, it's kind of like a dream, come true, to be kind of where I am with some of these amazing companies that I get to kind of rub shoulder to shoulder with. But really, like, what it helps is it helps you kind of hone and practice the things that you need work on. Like, just got off of a call, went through our pitch, totally bombed. But I'm glad I did it there, because before I go and really try and secure another or significant round, I want to make sure that I have it tight. And so just being able to learn from others just through being next to other people is super, super, super helpful. And I think it's only going to make all of us really better. Yeah.
Right. It's not easy for people to laugh off if a big pitch bombed, let alone talk about it so openly and abundantly here on a podcast. Talk to us about that mindset as well, because I find that before people start a business, they probably don't realize just how much rejection and failure and everything that we're faced and challenged with. And I always remind listeners that it's part of the process. You called it out, that your next pitch inevitably is going to be better because of that experience. But obviously, it's something that we're all navigating, no matter how long we've been in our businesses. Talk to us about that attitude, because it seems to come naturally to you, Ray, but I know that it's also conscious and you've worked on it.
Yeah, I think, as a dad of four, I think, they say it's one of the hardest things. I don't know if it is, but I've definitely failed a lot more probably than I've been successful, or remember my failures. But I think, one of the things that helps keep me grounded as I go through this, both on the highs and the lows, is I kind of have a practice of self-care through journaling. So I try to journal daily, at the very minimum every other day. And really that's just a time where I can kind of focus on kind of being grateful, being intentional, and helping me manage like my self-care, knowing that I'm going to fall, knowing that it's going to hurt, but also knowing that I've got to get up. At the end of every journal entry that I write, I finish it with onwards always. And I think that's kind of my mantra. So as an entrepreneur, we are going to fail, and that's okay. We just have to find the resilience to get back up and keep going, one step at a time, one day at a time. And that's just kind of my mentality.
Yeah, and hearing your level of intentionality throughout this conversation, I don't think that's going to surprise anybody about that practice of journaling. I want to put that in the spotlight because I find that a lot of entrepreneurs, we think a lot. We think about all the great scenarios, all the not so great scenarios. We worry, we have big ambitions. We go through so many things thought-wise. A fun question that I've been weaving into our conversations this year is about timeline, about how far out into the future you look, because I find that we're at this really interesting time. I remember sitting in a business classroom all the way back in 2009, 2010, and our professors would say, oh, you need a 10-year roadmap. You need to plot out what your business is going to look like in 10 years. I don't think anyone can do that these days because things change way too fast. Ray, what's the timeline that you look at with your executive hat on when you're planning, when you're plotting out features, when you're plotting out growth targets? How do you map out? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it annually? I'm super curious for you to take us behind the scenes.
I mean, that's a great question. I think you kind of want to plan for, the three phases, like what's happening now, what's going to happen in 6 months, and what's going to happen, that future company that you envision in your head. And so I think for me, what I do, at least, annually at the end of every year, is I write out like that year's plan. And I just kind of put it out there as my vision. And then beyond that, I break it down into different measurables that I can execute towards. And quarterly is usually kind of a good feel for that, at least for me. And then, obviously every month, are you making progress, checking in. And so that's kind of my cadence is really annual, then quarter. And then really my milestones are every month. There's how are we doing and what got in the way and where do we need to be in order to get to that vision of a company that we want to be. But right now it's like, when you're in the thick of it, it's like, what am I doing today? What am I doing, tomorrow? But if I don't have that lens of where are we going to be, I find that I can really get distracted and go down rabbit holes that maybe aren't as important. So having that kind of lens of, okay, zooming out, I planned this out for a year on where we need to be. Now let's dive back in, and it helps keep me, I think, centered and on track.
So well said. I find that ability to zoom in and zoom out, both are equally important as founders. It's a really powerful perspective for us to take. And I'll just share this while we're on the air together, is that it's part of what I love about AI is I can somewhat objectively, more objectively than I can do by myself, ask any large language model, hey, what am I missing here? What would it look like for me to zoom out? What would it look like for me to zoom in? And it's always fun to get at least a third party. Maybe I won't call it objective, but it's at least another party in the mix to give us some sort of view on it. So Ray, super grateful for those real life executive insights that you're sharing with us. And then with your founder hat still on, I'm excited for this last question because it's super broad. Every guest takes it in a different direction, but that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
Well, it's not something that I feel like I can take credit for, but it's something that's helped me every day, I would say. So there's an author, Jerry Colonna, and he wrote a book called Reboot. It's called Leadership and the Art of Growing Up. I would highly recommend that you grab that and read it. But he asks, a question all the time. It's like, how have I been complicit in the conditions that I say I don't want? And that's a very reflective question, but I think what it does is it forces the function. If you're not going where you want to go, or if you're not really where you think you need to be, instead of pointing the finger at something else or someone else, you direct it back at yourself and see what can I do to make a change in my behavior and what I'm doing and how I approach a specific situation. And I think that is one thing that I would just highly recommend everyone to try to ask that question of themselves, no matter if you're thinking about doing something, maybe why haven't you? If you're already in it and you're not where you want to be, okay, why not? There's always going to be, external circumstances that change things. But we have a choice on how we can approach those situations by reflecting on our own actions within that moment. So if you haven't checked him out, I would highly recommend it. That would be my kind of one piece of advice. I haven't been on his podcast. I don't know him personally. I just know that it's helped me a ton in my career.
Heck yes. And I would imagine that by the simple act of confronting that question, gosh, it invites a whole new level of ownership in our businesses and in our lives. I love that question. How have I been complicit in the conditions that I say I don't want? Ray, I feel like all of this gives us quite a bit of insight into the way that your mind thinks and how awesome you are as an executive, as a founder, as someone who's making big, impactful changes in an industry that needs it, in an industry that, as we solve these problems and you're at the forefront of innovating there, the world becomes a better place. So huge kudos to you. I'm also really excited for listeners to go deeper and check out all the cool stuff that you're up to. So for listeners who want to find you online and all the great stuff, drop some links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, for sure. Go check us out at allegory.world. And that's our website. And then you can always find me on LinkedIn. Reach out. I'd love to chat.
Yes, and listeners, you already know we're dropping those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. So super easy. If you're on the go, don't worry, you don't have to remember anything. You can click right on through. We're also linking to Ray's personal LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to him, continue the conversation. You've heard how intentional he is about the way he thinks about all this stuff. So do not be shy. Otherwise, Ray, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.